This is RPMMORadio.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
A podcast all about roleplay and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job.
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Sibh'Bae, and Kishmas.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Hello, role players. Welcome to RPMMORadio. This is our 42nd episode, The Life, the Universe, and Everything. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, and with me today is Jazz.
Hey.
And that's it.
And that's it.
That's it. We'll have a special guest, TheHumanFloyd, on here after a short bit to help us talk about this topic. It was actually already planned. It just worked out that way. Kishmas, of course, is off, doing whatever Kishmas does. Sibh'Bae is doing, I think, family stuff, but he's out of town. And Sib, I'm afraid...
He's sick as a dog.
Yeah, she's in rough shape. She may not make it. Yeah, she may not make it. So, yeah, it's a shame. Her life insurance policies are all paid up. Don't worry about that. I know everyone was worried about that like I was, but they are, in fact, paid up. So, yep. So we're gonna have TheHumanFloyd on. He'll be jumping in here with us shortly. I see him in the chat now. Look at that. And that's not TheHumanFloyd. It's TheHumanFloyd, because there is only one TheHumanFloyd. As usual, we want to give everyone a special thanks for joining us here live, like we do every Saturday at 7 Central Time at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. You can, of course, listen to us every time in the weekend, like I just said, because I'm repeating myself like a twit. For you podcast people, if you ever want to do that, you can join us. And if you're listening live and for some reason you can't make the live show, which does happen, I don't know what's more important in your life than, of course, this random podcast on the internet about roleplay and MMORPGs. I mean, I'm trying to think of anything. What do you think, Jazz? Maybe the firstborn child? Like, not the second kid. Like, the first one, you can miss the show for your firstborn child, but, like by the second and third kid, I mean, really, you've kind of already been there. I mean, it's just not really as important. I mean, the magic is gone.
I have to disagree with you on that.
Well, yeah, but what do you know? You've only got, like, 15 kids or something like that. I mean, you don't even know half of their names anymore. You don't even know one of their name. You just call him Monkey. I mean, you don't even remember his name half the time.
Mm-hmm. His name is Monkey.
Wow.
There you go.
Man. That is the worst.
Or as he looks at me darkly and says, "Mommy, my name is Zachariah."
Quiet, Monkey. So, no, we appreciate everybody listening here. Of course, you podcast people, you know the drill. iTunes, Android podcast app, Spotify, Podbean is where we host that, and usually it goes live sometime during Saturday, usually in the morning if I'm not too lazy when we get done here. And, of course, a special thanks to all of our Patreon donors, which you, too, can be a part of over at patreon.com/RPMMORadio. If you, depending on how much you do, you could get your name mentioned on the show, and we always appreciate it, regardless of whatever, if anything from $1 to $20, just like those at our Raid Boss level, That Guy Lazza and The Truth Bob. We appreciate you guys, as always. Quick special shout out for no particular reason. Happy birthday to Yunfei on Monday. She was the one that called in last week, and she's been a longtime friend of many people on the show. So somebody let slip that it was her birthday on Monday. And I want to say, Yunfei, you look amazing for 86. You really, really look good. I mean, I don't know if what your skincare program is, if it's the bathing in formaldehyde, the sucking the
Blood of
marrow
virgins.
out,
Blood
right,
of virgins.
blood of virgins, the sucking the marrow out of the young. I don't know. Could just be chicken broth. Or what was the old guy that, not George Carlin, the other really old guy, smoked a cigarette, was in all those oh my God movies back in the 80s. Remember him? Ooh,
Yeah,
we're
I don't
going
remember his
back.
name, though.
Yeah, smoked a cigar every day of his life and ate bacon till 102 years old. Whatever you're doing.
Oh, the
keep
guy
it
that
up.
played God.
Yeah.
God, I can see his face.
I know, I can too. It's awful, isn't it? It's awful getting old. Almost
Yes.
as old as he is. But yes, happy birthday, Yunfei. Also, happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there, without which only half of you have, because I think you were hatched. I know that's what my mom always told me, because she loved me. And she was true. George Burns, thank you, Razor.
George Burns, yay,
Yeah,
there
he
you
was
go.
a good guy. I love that. That was like my childhood, seeing that old timer on TV when I was growing up. But yes, happy Mother's Day to all you mothers, to my Sib, to, of course, you, Jazz, and Kishmas.
Thank you.
I don't know. It seems appropriate. I don't want to define his gender role, Jazz. I think we can all appreciate that he is a beautiful woman with big cans.
Okay.
And he's 22.
And he's 22. That's
right.
true.
That's right. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going on anymore. I'm just here for fun. And of course, those of you listening to us on twitch.tv, if you haven't, feel free to follow us and subscribe if you want to do a subscription. If you've got Amazon Prime, you of course get one of those for free every month. Why waste it? I mean, Amazon rarely gives anything for free. I don't know if you realize
Seriously.
this, but your Amazon Prime just went up to, what was it, $120 a year now?
Yep.
Yeah.
112, I think.
112.
118. I forget.
I'm just jumping the gun. It's going to be above 120.
For me, it's fine. We use it so much that
I know, and that's why they can get away with it.
yeah.
That's why.
But I mean, they could until they raise it over 200. I'm not going to bitch too much.
Yeah,
because it's worth
I
it.
know.
And we consolidated all of our accounts into mine. So
yeah, we do the same thing. Everything we order, it gets ordered through my account.
when it went up, we closed my husband's account and we just, well, not closed it, but we
I know what you mean.
ended his Prime and then we just used mine and then we're all linked to my account. So
yeah, it's I forget what it was that they say. What's the guy that runs Amazon? God, I was just listening to somebody and they were talking about how much money that guy makes.
stupid amount of money.
A minute. It's
Yeah.
something like $500,000 a minute. Like,
Yeah.
you can't spend the amount of money he makes, in a minute. You can't write the check fast enough to do that.
I dislike that.
Bezos, Jeff Bezos.
There we
you.
go. Yeah. And I try to use other companies.
It's cute that you
but
try that.
I try because
It's
I
like
won't
trying
use
to avoid
Walmart,
Walmart.
so
It's just like, yeah, you know
I
what?
have. I've completely given up Walmart, but I just exchanged it for Amazon. So I'm really not
That doesn't count. That's
accomplishing
totally
too
not the
much.
You went from a smaller business company to the even bigger business company.
I know.
In this
it's
scenario,
terrible.
Walmart is the small business. You realize that?
Yes, I know. I just don't like them. Personal thing. I know eventually I'm going to have to order from them online as well, but I also order from a company called Box, which I highly recommend. And I really like.
Feel free to send us a check box. It's okay. We are not too
Box.com
proud.
is all like things that are on sale that they buy in bulk and then they sell. And so you can't always get the same things there all the time, which is kind of a bummer, but I get really great deals. So we are currently probably never running out of toilet paper or paper towels. Ever.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow.
And like tissue and granola bars. My husband was like, no more granola bars, babe. We're fine. I'm like, okay. And Febreze. And so, yeah. But it's nice because I'm not buying that stuff anywhere else. So, it works.
Yes, it's all fun. Yeah, I mean, we're slowly going to the dystopian future of, say, the Blade Runners and things like that, or those old, like the mega corporations own everything, like from the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
It's
Everything was Taco Bell. Remember that?
That actually, though, I love that. I will say that is one of my favorite movies.
Mine too. I really
Man.
enjoy them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything is Taco Bell now.
I still laugh at every part you're supposed to. It's still funny.
It still holds up. It's funny too, that self-driving car thing. That's not, they're probably more accurate on that than they think.
And and the reality is all these major restaurants are all owned by the same small group of people. So really it's not a big leap that they'd all be owned by the same person eventually. So, yeah, it's kind of funny, kind of not, kind of depressing, but it's still a funny movie.
Yeah, I love it. And that was when I first got noticed Sandra Bullock. That was her first big role, I remember, and I'm really, okay, I know this, we'll get to role play, don't worry about it. Really looking forward to Ocean's 8 with her and all those other girls in it.
I haven't
the girl
seen that
version
yet, but
of,
I want to.
It's not out yet, but the trailers, sometimes it's kind of, it doesn't look like it's going the way of the female-only Ghostbusters, because they actually have, what's that thing called? Oh, yeah, a script.
Yeah, they have a script.
You can't throw women at a thing and be like, this is what we need. No, you need a good script.
You have to actually think about it and work at it, not just throw them in there and hope that it works. That's just so annoying.
Yes. So, all right. Well, with that, before we get into what we were doing in role play, I want to welcome the Human Floyd to the show.
Hi, Human Floyd.
Hey guys.
What's going on,
I am going
Floyd?
to go silence a cat. I'll be right
back.
Okay,
go beat your animals. What's going on, Floyd? How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm great. I'm super disappointed though. I was really excited to meet Kishmas. Well, I didn't think Kishmas was going to be here, but I was excited to meet Sibh'Bae.
Yeah, I was really hoping he'd be here too, because he's kind of he's the more religious of all of us. He actually goes to a church and things like that. He's the one of the five of us. He's the one going to actual heaven, as opposed to where we're all.
I know. I was excited to ask him questions about that because, especially being somebody that role plays in the temple, that's such an interesting little dichotomy.
Yeah, we were hoping to get there.
I'm back.
Welcome back, Jess.
I had to play Ring Around the Rosie with my cat.
Fresh from giving her cat over to the Korean guy down the street.
Well, I have in my ramp room, there's this, it's like a dresser, and there's a place where they can jump in the middle of it because it's kind of hollow in the center. And so I ran around to get him on the top of the ramp room, and he ran through that point back to the bottom. So then I ran back to the bottom, and he jumped back through that point to get to the top. So I had a Keystone Cops moment there briefly.
So, all right. Well, since we got you here, Floyd, we'll go ahead and go over what we've been doing in roleplay. Since we're a little short-staffed today, I figured we'll go ahead and just have you on. And if you've been doing anything roleplay that you've find memorable, we'll ask you too. But first, of course, I mean, as is tradition now, we're gonna. Okay, you know what? Hold on. Actually, you know what, Jazz? I forget that. I'm breaking with tradition. Let's go ahead. We'll go with Kishmas for. Oh wait, no, he's not. All right, how about Sibh'Bae? Go ahead and... Oh, wait, no, Sibh'Bae's not here. So we'll have Sib... Oh, that's right, she's not here.
You're so not funny. You know
okay,
that,
Jazz,
right?
well, I guess you're up. Yeah, go ahead. What have you been doing in roleplay, Jazz?
That's weird how that worked out.
It is
isn't it?
It's just coincidence. I had it written down here and everything on this piece of paper that's small enough to fit in the palm of my hand on camera. So, go ahead, Jazz.
Next time you should flip a coin and
that's good. I have a dice here. I need to get a. Let's see. We have if we have a 6-sided dice, and if the extra one could always be Jazz too.
Yeah, there you go.
I could do it that way. I will, of course, do it completely honestly and off screen.
Right. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So, let's see. There's been a lot going on for me, roleplay wise, and trying to juggle it all can be fun. I have on Kia, who's my main and is the guild leader of my guild, Alanu. There was a situation between one of her officers and a slave of somebody else, and they had a altercation. And so the slave owners and her officer were not happy with each other. And Kia had to get in the middle and be like, okay, we need to talk this out. So it was very, very heated. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy Conflict RP. You might have figured that out about me by now. So Conflict RP is a lot of fun for me, as long as it doesn't turn into drama, which it didn't.
That's just what you want us to believe. It's just like you say something like that. It's always about drama with you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I try to avoid it as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Sure you do. Whatever. Mm-hmm. Passive aggressive.
Anyway, can I keep going?
Yes.
Okay. Yay.
There's no buffer for you guys. It's just going to be you two.
I know, it's just the two of us this time. This could be very bad. The human Floyd is going to have to be...
You're the demilitarized zone. You're the spot, but I'll be North Korea. Jazz, you can be South Korea. Floyd, you're the demilitarized zone.
You can blast some music at him, Jazz.
That's right.
I don't think that would work. Unless it was like Shout to the Devil or something that might.
Only ones I don't like are those ones where they're like...
We're equal there. I don't like that either. I don't like that.
And it's not because it's annoying. It's like The Rock is really good. It's because I don't understand the words, and that's annoying.
Yes. And both my husband and my sons like that kind of music, so I get to listen. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Death metal is life. And go ahead. Anyway, I was going to go.
Anyway.
Go ahead. Yeah, keep going.
So that has been an ongoing thing throughout the week while we dealt with that. And also on Sully, on Sunday was the tea house and it went well. And then on Wednesday we did the scarabs and moths thing. I went on Sully and I did that. So that was fun. Sully is kind of branching out and getting more involved in Dunmer culture, which is something that she needed to do and I really am enjoying doing. A lot, and I think that I didn't expect to, but it is a lot of fun. Even though she's, a heretic, really, she hides it well. So,
well, that's the thing. You can be a heretic. You just got to be not caught being a heretic.
Yes, exactly. And she's very aware it's a good way to get her head cut off.
You can be a witch in Salem. Just don't be caught being a witch in Salem.
Oh, look, a witch! Choom! Run the other way.
She's got a wart. No, I don't. You put that on me. Look at her nose. That's not my real nose.
Anyway, so that's been a lot of fun. And then also Strafe and I have kicked off our roleplay arc last week, which we mentioned, where Trithalis' twin, Jathalis, took his place while he was off on a mission, basically, to go get some alien ruins. Showed back up, said it was a bust, he didn't go. And so he was here for a whole week as Jay, and nobody knew. He talked about that. Well, Sia had already figured something was up, but she couldn't say anything because Sia has her own secrets to reveal, and we're working on that. So we got to kind of push that to the next level, and Sia and Jay Thalas met and talked. And there's just been a lot of RP coming from that, which has been a lot of fun. Yeah. So I thought we were going to do stories. Did we change that? I forgot that we were going to do that.
Well, I was going to when I get to my turn, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was going to tell it in the story form.
Okay.
But since, I was just letting you, it's tradition. You have to go first now because you complained about it once.
Well, I would say it's more chance.
It was this time. We got rid of tradition, and you're right, Floyd. It was utter chance. It was just coincidence.
He's so full of it. Also, on Monday, I level a small character with my husband, and he and my character are, I keep saying Ixar. They're not Ixar. Argonians, and they're brother and sister. He's the older brother. He's been charged with taking care of the little sister, who is, except she's a handful, of course, and she's a thief. She steals from everything, and she sets things on fire, and she's a Templar. So she tends to just kind of charge in and do stuff, and he's always trying to make sure she doesn't get killed. And usually while we're leveling, we'll be discussing like his letters home to his mom. It's a lot of fun because he has to, you know, explain to his mom that she's okay and kind of not mention that, you know, we don't need money because your daughter is very good at making money. It's fine. And he's very much a good person and doesn't believe in stealing. And he'll see her, like we were at this temple place doing a quest and she's going through everything. And he was like, really? A temple? Really? Really? You're stealing? She was like, what? They're dead. They're never going to use it. So it's a lot of fun on a very casual level.
That sounds like it.
Because there's no really big story arc. It's just these two are a lot of fun to interact with.
Yeah. So. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how about you, Floyd? You got any good stories? It's been, let's see, 32 episodes since we last talked to you. So I'd assume you may have at least one.
Yeah. I'll start like right after the last episode.
Right. Yeah. Just go ahead and catch us up from there.
Yeah. Okay.
No, just
we got all the time you need.
Yeah. Anything that you know kind of stands out that you share worthy, I suppose.
Sure. I mean, my own MMO roleplay I can't share too much of right now because I'm actually recording it to be released as a YouTube series.
Oh, cool.
Basically, yeah. So basically, I'm taking a brand new character that I've never really played and just starting out on a secret account. Nobody knows who I am. I have no friends on it, and I'm just kind of seeing what happens. You know, just like
your
taking
original account. You have no friends on it.
Yeah, the exact same as my original.
Oh my gosh! Why do
I'm
you guys
kidding.
do that? You're so mean
it's
to
not
each
it's not even a secret account, guys. It's my actual.
He just said that to try to cover up, but
I'm just trying to sound cool.
No, I've seen when you post something, everyone's like, "Yeah, it's the Floyd." He lives. He comes out of the ocean once every 100 years to torment the city of Tokyo. You know?
Pretty much. Yeah. So I've been doing that. Just
that's cool. I look forward to seeing what you do with that. Is it in the same style like you did with me, you, Jazz, and Sib?
Yeah.
Like
same
that?
style, pretty much.
That's cool. Yeah, no, that'll be fun.
Probably less directed though, because that was like
right.
a one. You know, it's more just like, here's what it's like to be a brand new role player, and just here's one of the things I want to try to express with it is like, here's how you take a basic interaction that you might have from roleplay and try to expand it into something more, and we'll see if that's
like finding randos and things like that.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, that's a thing that I've been doing, and it's really fun, and it's super fun when I run into people that I know, right. And I get to be so sneaky. I feel like a Dark Brotherhood role player.
Just like that's cool. No, that'll be neat. Look forward to that.
Yeah, and I did get to record a finale of a 3.5-year storyline the other night.
Oh, cool! Wow.
Yeah, it's some intense stuff. My buddy Art, he's also known as the Grim. He's been doing like this big bad guy Daedric prophecy Lovecraftian storyline, and they just did their final event the other night, and I got to be an OOC cameraman, which was really fun.
Okay, yeah, so you were filming it as it was going. You're just like in the trenches kind of a thing.
Yeah, just like crouching around in the character.
Okay, I get you. That's cool. Yeah.
Just so, yeah, it's nice to have. Like I've actually, so this is kind of crazy, but I have recorded literally every single roleplay that I've ever done in ESO, either with like screenshotting the chat as I roleplay or recording it and then turning it into a little video.
Wow.
And it's like, it is a hole that you can disappear down into really quick, but it's super satisfying to have your roleplay recorded to look back on, you know?
Yeah, I can only imagine if we had done something like that. How many terabytes of data we would have at this point.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I have my journals. I suppose that sort of counts.
Yeah, but to actually have the screenshots or the chat logs and stuff, man, yeah. I can't. Like
I have the chat logs
I've gone over old journals, and I'm like, I have no recollection of writing this.
I have no memory of this place.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Gandalf in front of the dwarf. I have no memory of this place.
But yeah, other than that, I've also been in a tabletop role play the past few months. I know that's like heresy, I guess, to talk about on this show.
Not really.
No, not really.
Yeah, but
why would you think that? Shame. Shame. No,
you don't have Sib with the bell. You can't.
I know
me.
we don't.
I'm impervious.
It's not the same without the Sib to shame someone. She's much better at it because she's got the female voice of the original quotationer.
But yeah, it's a Pokemon tabletop game that my buddy is running that was inspired by Stranger Things. So it's basically like Stranger Things plus Pokemon. So we have lots of like great 80s music and we go and catch Pokemon.
Now, I've actually heard of people do it. Is there an actual tabletop or is it like a fan-made thing for the Pokemon part? Okay, so yeah, I've heard of that. So yeah, that's kind of funny. First gen, it's got first gen in it, of course. I mean, that's really the only gen that matters.
Yeah, all of my Pokemon are first gen.
Yeah, all the ones after that, it's like, I don't know. I mean, you're like a bouncing screw. It's just weird. You're not even physically possible. Get out of here with your trash.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, that's cool. For anybody in our Discord chat, he put it in general chat of what it kind of looks like. So it's actually like a little program and everything. Huh.
Yeah, you can use Roll20.net, and there's like a custom tile set that somebody made, so you can kind of make it look like one of the old Game Boy games.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. The things people come up with now, there's just so much of it, you can't even keep up with it. It's just not possible.
Can't do it all.
Mm-mm. So no, that's really cool, man. That's really, really neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I'll go ahead and try to do my little story form here. So I ran the event on Tarvala, and here's somewhat what it would be like. I think from her perspective, she is of course a Yalif and is nervous of making herself look foolish in front of both the high ordinators and now their ordinators underneath her. She had come up with the idea for this training exercise and learning what it is that each individual needs to improve on in Magicka, be that like where she was so weak in ice-based skills that she could barely make a usable ice cube, or healing, in which she always described it as trying to fill up a glass with a waterfall. Eventually she would of course fill up the glass, but there was a lot of wasted Magicka in the middle of it. She described this to the ordinators before her, all standing at attention in their row, each going over what their weakest were. She had several that were weak in fire, which she found somewhat ironic, given that they're Dunmer, and others who were weak in earth, which is a little more understandable, and a few that were weak in something like wind or healing, just like she was. Well, as she paired them off, she took the two that were good in earth and described to them what it was like. That earth, like many things, is slow moving. It's not a magic that can just burn and quickly come about like fire or wind. It's slow. You have to concentrate. You have to will it. You have to be stronger than the earth itself in order to move the earth itself. As she described it, she stomped her foot as she usually did to make the magic activate and threw a tiny pebble up, catching it in her hand, and then through that further use of Magicka, destroyed it and sent it spinning in her palm like a little solar system. As she demonstrated this, she nodded for them to go ahead and try. The first attempt was mostly just two guys standing before her, stomping their feet on the ground and making dust, which was something. The second attempt was much better, and both of them actually managed to eventually get the pebble to shoot into their hand. They, of course, couldn't do all the other stuff, but it was an improvement over what they had done before. So that was really all she could ask for. Nobody goes from not being able to conjure a magic of earth or fire or water or any of the elements or wards or healing spells without practice. So as first practices go, she was pleased, and she dismissed them, having everybody switch. And of course, this time it was her turn to be healed, or her turn to be taught by her high ordinator, Nathala, along with another ordinator next to her, Taliana. As she told them what was going on and how weak she was in actually healing people, that she was better basically at bandaging them than actually, using healing magic. She listened to Nathala as she went over the feelings and the way Nathala would bring about conjuration of restoration magic, that she calls upon the saints, that she calls upon Amsivi to work through her, not so much using the magicka as a force like she does with fire or any of the other actual destructive magics, that restoration magic needs to be used in a different manner. And she had come to realize that one of the reasons she had always been so poor at it is she had been purposely taught wrong. She didn't, of course, say this out loud. She was already embarrassed enough that she couldn't really do the basics of healing. But she had realized in her former life as becoming a priestess at a temple before she became an ordinator that the people that had always teased her and made fun of her had actually taught her wrong, had set her up to fail. But with this new instructor before her, things were a little different. So she concentrated, she prayed, she conjured a little ball of healing magic. It wasn't strong. It was a little more than a flickering candle in high winds, but it guttered, it sputtered, but it existed. And then she was asked to push it forward. She concentrated further, and forward that guttering little flame of restoration magic went, touching the High Ordinator right in her chest and sending the warmth and the healing magic through her. And with that, she squealed like a little girl, because she had done it. She'd never done anything like that before in her life. So, with that, the training was over. She had everyone line up again, and there was nothing further to do, so she dismissed them. And that is what I did on Monday. So
that was awesome.
Cool.
That was. I like that. I'll have to try that next time.
Yeah.
I really like that because it really it goes back to the telling the story around the fire thing, but it involves roleplay. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I'm like, I've always wanted to do it in story form, but I'm also too lazy to write it out every single time. So wing it.
Nice.
Fake it till you make it. That's what they say, right?
Yep.
All right. So before we get into our main topic, we got, real quick, before we get into sponsor, we actually do have, after we get done with the main topic at the end of the show, we have a special thing done with a crossover from a little show called Pixel Debauchery. It's run by Scribbles MMO, who's actually in our chat, and it runs over at PantheonRadio.com. It's somewhat Pantheon-based, but not all the time, but it does run on the PantheonRadio.com website. It's something I voiced over for him. He was had a pretty funny script, and I don't remember how he found the show, but he found it somehow, and reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to do a couple voiceovers from the script, and I was more than happy to give it a shot. And he edited it. It was all his stuff. I had lived a little bit, but it was all off of his script. So we got permission from him to play that at the end of the show, and we'll give him a shout at the end, and I'll give you the rest of the information there. But I wanted to let people know at the end of the show there'll be something extra, something funny, and it's about 7 minutes long. Should be entertaining. So, with that, let's go ahead and hit the word from our sponsor this week. Are you lost in life? Do you feel powerless? that truth is a meaningless construct brought about by the hierarchy to keep you subjugated in poverty and near starvation for their benefit, then, my friend, I have the solution for you. For just 36 easy payments of $49.99 plus shipping and handling, we can send you the light, the way, in the 36 lessons of Vivek, now in hardbound covering. You can learn the ways of the three through their most gifted of writers, the warrior poet. In this, you'll get such life lessons as the suspicious is spectacle, and the lie is the only theoretical inspiration. Or a proper comprehension of virtues, stage managed, and to be murdered. And of course, who can forget the timeless classic, Vivek looked upon the king of rape and said, "How very beautiful you are, that you do not join us." And Moloch Ball crushed the warrior poet's feet, which were not invulnerable, and had legions cleave them off. Mighty fires from the beginning place were brought like nets to hold Vivek, and he let them. Powerful. Call now at the number below and have your credit card ready. Our operators are standing by, just waiting for your call. And remember, the ending of the words is Elm Civvy.
Okie dokie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I worry a little bit about that third line there. Not a big fan of anything that includes the king of rape.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Huh. Well, hopefully it's not a graphic novel version because there's a lot of crazy stuff in there.
Yeah, I've seen deviant art too.
Haven't we all?
Oh, yeah. Man, there's some really good stuff on there, but whew, it gets dark. It gets dark. All right, so with this, we're going to talk a bit about spiritualism, religion. It might actually bleed over into real-world stuff because that's typically how adult conversations go. So if you're easily offended by the ideas and possibilities of other people, this rest of the episode might not be for you. But if you can understand an adult conversation, and of course, we'll eventually, as all conversations on religion and politics these days, will eventually devolve into name-calling, finger-pointing, and biting.
Yeah, if
right?
you just skip to about an hour and 20 minutes, that's when it gets really good.
Yeah, about the end of the show, that'll be where you can regain your safe space. No, but yeah, we're going to talk about spirituality, both in video games, and of course, like I said, there's going to be crossover. We're going to have to talk about real-world spirituality and religions and things like that. So we're not here to, step on your toes and your beliefs. If a podcast challenges your beliefs, you might want to think about that because it shouldn't. You should have given it more thought before now. So what we mean, I was going to read over here what spirituality, so we can all start off on the same basis, basically. And of course, where else do you get bases for than Wikipedia?
Of course.
Hail Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's actually, I double checked with the dictionary version of it too, and I was like, all right, well, this one, Wikipedia actually said the same thing, but slightly not as boring. So traditionally, spirituality refers to religious process of reformation, which aims to recover the original shape of man, oriented at the image of God, capital G, or in our case, I guess it would be gods if we're talking about MMOs, because there's always more than one, as exemplified by the founders or sacred texts of the religions of the world. In modern times, the emphasis on the subject is on subjective experience of a sacred dimension and the deepest values and meanings by which people live, often in the context separated by organized religions and institutions. Modern systems of spirituality may include, and are not limited to, nosebleeds, erectile dysfunction. No, sorry. Modern systems of spirituality may include a belief in the supernatural, beyond the known and observable realm, personal growth, quest for the ultimate and sacred meaning, religious experiences, or encountering one's own inner dimension, which happened to me one time. I got in touch with my inner self, but it wasn't intentionally.
Oh, here we go.
My toilet paper slipped.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's an oldie bitty goodie. Not everybody's heard it. We got a lot of young listeners. Tell your teachers. No. So I think that sounds about right for everybody. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of all encompassing. It's not just the capital G God. It's also, people that are just like, the Buddhist monks trying to, and find their inner self, and those awesome guys that are able to throw a needle through a piece of glass, on like the slow-mo guys, which was fucking awesome in slow motion.
Yeah.
Anybody else watch that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. Slow-mo guys are awesome. Sorry, just shout out. I love those guys. But yeah, so when you role play as a spiritual or religious character, like, why would you want to do that? Any ideas? Anybody? I have no idea. I personally would never role play a spiritual basic zealot like I do on Tarval every day.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, really? I tend to stay away from that, but like Zarish in EQ was, as you remember, was a healer, but was also a Zek follower to the point of zealotry. So I did a lot of research so that I could play her that way, and she was a lot of fun. She was very much a Zekian, and it made for her being a healer. And for those who don't know, Zek is the god of war.
Oh, nice.
So she's a healer who follows a god of war. So when somebody would get hurt, she would heal them, but then she would say, try harder not to be so weak next time. And then she'd move on to the next person.
Go get back to war.
Yeah, get back to your war. You can't have warriors without them properly healed and ready to fight. So
right, and so she was very much. And when somebody would come to her that was like, "I'm fine," she was like, "Sit down and shut up. You're no good, hurt."
Knocks them out.
And so and then she would punch them. She would hit people sometimes to get them to be unconscious so she could heal them. She was a very fun character to play because she was very much over the top. And I enjoyed playing her a lot. But most of my characters are not overly religious because I'm not, and I don't have any desire to do that. But I think that some people really enjoy it, even if they're not. It just comes down to what people like play out, I suppose.
Yeah. It looks Axmalexia, not to be confused with Almalexia. Which is why I roleplay, or why I RP priests and an ordinator. I'm not that religious, but rather it's fascinating. Rather, it's a fascination of it all. I love the writing done for the tribunal, the divines, etc. So kind of like you, Jess. I know you're not the most. I wouldn't say you're the strongest proponent of organized religion. I think is that safe to say?
That's a safe. I'm an agnostic who's also a pagan. So I worship nature, and I don't really get into it beyond that. Mm-hmm. So I'm very casual. I don't care if other people do. It doesn't bother me as long as, I say, you keep your religion away from me, and I'll keep my religion away from you.
Right.
There we're even. So,
and like for me, I don't mind. Like, I'm like you. Like I've been in the grocery, and I consider myself. I don't know. I guess if I had to categorize it, which I hate doing. I'm not a big fan of that at all usually, but I would say I'm a creationist evolutionist. Right? Let that one sink in.
Yeah.
But basically, I do believe in evolution, but I also believe that there is a greater power, and that
it's called creation as evolution.
Yeah,
I believe,
and it's you just
proper term for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never looked deeper into it than been like, I kind of believe in both. But as things evolved, there were maybe a higher power like nudged this proton into this nutrient, and that's how things came about. And that a lot of the things like in the Bible that they're, just like you, I mean, come on, the History Channel wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Bible at this point because of all the stuff they did early on trying to prove and disprove stuff in it. Like I love the theories on that stuff, on how they think it may have come back in the physical world, the separation of the Red Sea being, volcanic activity and things like that. The old thing of the plagues of Egypt, the firstborn dying. the explanation I heard scientifically for that was that it was tradition back then that the firstborn typically got the most of the food after the parents. So if the food supply had gotten tainted, they got the most of that poison, and that's why so many of the firstborns were killed off, because they were just intaking more of this horrible stuff. Or you could go with the supernatural route. Either, that's I'm good for both.
Yeah, I think kind of what you're getting at is this belief that Einstein actually believed this. I think a lot of people called it deism back in the day.
It was called deism.
Deism, yeah.
Yeah, it's like and lots of astrophysicists,
in
super smart people.
God in science, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. And some people that look at like the really like basic math of the universe, like the building blocks of everything, say, well, this had to have been created or whatever. But regardless, like, yeah, there is this idea that you don't have to believe in one and not the other. And I think that's becoming more and more common as time goes on.
Yeah. And
we're also moving away from organized religion into more of a spiritual, each person comes to God their own way sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And everybody
that's becoming
has their
more
own
acceptable.
Yeah. Totally. And everyone has their own definition of what God is,
Yeah. I personally am a fan of Thor. I like seeing my gods physically save us from Thanos. I mean, not all of us maybe, but most of us. But yeah, so with Floyd, so we've both gone over. You wanna hit on how it is you kind of see the world through in a spiritual sense, Floyd, before we hit that all stuff up?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think like you, and I think a lot of people nowadays, nobody really wants to be defined anymore. Right. Like, we don't want a single word.
And yet, that's exactly what I'm asking you to do.
Yes,
Define yourself. Define yourself now, sir. Put yourself in one of these 5 columns.
Right, and you must reject and hate all of the other.
That's right,
columns.
And if you're in one of these, you have to hate all 4 of the others. That's how we work on the internet.
But yeah, I mean, I'm into so much stuff. I actually like if I were to go to school, I would probably go to school for religious studies just because I'm fascinated by all of it. I'm super into like Buddhism, I'm into Taoism, but my root foundation, funny enough, you mentioned Thor, is Indo-European paganism. So kind of like the practices of the ancient Norse, the Celts, the early Hindus. That's kind of where I like to sit, and I explore everything else kind of beyond that. But like, I mean, I've also, there's this teacher that I really like, and he proposed this belief that I really dig, which is that on some days I feel like an atheist. On some days I don't believe in God. On other days I feel like a naturalist, or whatever. Like, and then on other days I'm a Christian.
I think that's just the evolution of like just thought too. But I mean, because like there's plenty of things I think of, and I'm like, it's a constant, if you're not struggling internally with everything you believe all the time, if you know for a fact, I mean, you can know what you believe, but you've always got to be willing to challenge it. Just like,
totally.
And you have to do that same thing kind of with your characters, because for one, it's fun, to have that stuff happen to them. But I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said you must question even the very existence of God, for if there be a God, surely he would welcome honest questioning over blindfolded fear.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So if you,
and it also helps as
it
characters, as characters in our worlds that we play in. For the most part, gods don't need to be believed in.
Yeah, we actually have that. There's
no faith involved because they're there.
Like, yeah, when you can see the fight between Raylos, Zek, and Tunar in the lower Fae, like happened in both EQ1 and EQ2. That's why there's one of those things like when we would come across atheists in EverQuest. It's like, how? Like dude, he's right over there. like
yeah,
he's right there. You could go get smoked by him right now.
Right. So I like that in MMOs, because then I can play a person who is devout but not necessarily religious, because to me religion requires faith, whereas there's no faith involved in an MMO because they're right there. You can, like Vivek, for example. I mean, these are the living gods. So, I mean,
you could attack them.
Yeah.
It wouldn't go well for you. You need at least a raid group to take them down, obviously. But yeah, so that's one of those that is a thing I've always found funny. And one thing I think I had it on here later, but since we're here now, one thing I don't think I've ever come across this when it comes to religious characters, that when they know for a fact, that instead of being the atheist, I don't think I've ever seen anyone discuss well, you may believe it's a god, I don't, but maybe it's just a higher, like a more powerful being. You're saying
you have, because that's what Vaka always said.
Oh, was it? Well, I don't know.
Gods can be killed.
That's true.
Therefore, they are not really gods. They're just gods.
Okay, see,
yeah.
I was thinking more along, just as somebody. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I guess you did do that.
Yeah,
but,
that was what Vaka always said, was that if they can die, and we know they can, then they're not really gods.
Yeah.
They're just really powerful creatures that are better than us.
It doesn't come up a lot, too. You would think
that
it would come up a
she
little
could be
more
set
often.
on fire for that heresy, so she very rarely said it unless she was with friends.
Yeah. But it's one aspect smart. You rarely see people role play out. That, I mean, especially for, like, in a game like ESO with the 3, that's clearly some, I mean, you'd be killed for heresy in front of an ordinator and stuff like that, sure. Right. But it's an argument that could be made, or even with the Daedric gods. I mean, they're Daedric princes. There's so many Daedra. How do you can't
right,
really
but in their own world, are they gods?
Right.
No, they're just people.
Yeah.
So are they gods?
The 9, or you could have that same argument with them, or
when they're kicking it, they're not worshiping each other.
Yeah, and I think there's not exactly like Final Fantasy 14. I don't think they have an equivalency of gods. There's Hydaelyn, the main crystal and stuff like that, but that's more like the Force, really. It seems like to me.
Yeah.
It's like the central crystallized version of the Force. Even things, and there's another one, stuff in Star Wars. The Force itself. That's basically just like being able to tap into the power of God, like in a physical way, because
right.
Totally.
I don't know.
It's super based on a lot of Eastern philosophy too. Like
where he pulled the stuff from for the Jedi is a lot of what you were saying, Floyd, the Hindu monks and things like that.
Totally.
But why, now to get back, now that we've established where we believe on real world stuff, why do you want to do this? Why not? What are the good and bad examples of these characters, either religious or not religious, that we've ran into in roleplay?
Well, I think the hardest thing for me to deal with myself is when you're dealing with somebody that's playing a zealot or somebody that is faithful, and they treat it, they use the same techniques and mantras as you would if you went to church in a Christian church. When there's no backing for, I mean, there is in this game to some degree, but I ran into that a lot in EQ, which was kind of annoying. Like there were people that would walk around and preach the love of Inaruk.
Right, yes.
Remember those people?
When he has...
Inaruk loves you. He has forgiven you. And Vaku would be like, what planet do you live on?
When he's the god of
reality?
Hate. Yeah.
He's the god of hate. He doesn't love anybody.
Right.
That bugs me.
Palpatine.
Barring that, I'm totally okay with religion in and of itself. It's just not something, I guess, because I was burned so bad by religion and because my religious stance is so vague that I think I'm more.
I like to use the term wishy-washy.
Weak-kneed, maybe.
I told you we'd get to the insults. Heathen.
Yeah, I embrace heathen, so thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place in North Dakota. If there's a town called Hell, there's some town in the world called Heathen.
There is, probably.
Probably, right. Now somebody needs to Google that for us.
I live in the Hellgate Valley, so I'm bad.
Well, there's certainly a couple of places called Hell in various states, so.
Yeah.
And Heaven, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, if somebody wants to play a crazy religious person that thinks the God of hate is a loving God. I mean, I mean, you see that kind of craziness in the real world too.
Oh yes, you do.
Yeah.
But they would get OOC'ly upset with you if you
challenged okay.
So.
Kind of like the real world crazy guy does. That,
yeah.
You know, standing in the corner of New York, and when you tell him, dude, sit down and shut up. You know, no, Jesus isn't out, flying around at night on the towers of New York City in the form of a bat. That's not what Jesus does. How dare
thinking
you?
of Batman, take your medication.
It's like, what do you mean? No, yeah, those kinds of things. Man, it's fine when they do it, like you said, the zealot, the zealousness. Because I mean, like I play a zealot, like Tarvala, all the ordinators and all the people in the servants of the temple. They would be classified really as zealots. I mean, they take the tribunal stuff and they take it. Man,
and you do it well. I love how your people do it. I think that you and Kishmas in particular do it really, really well.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Ashen. Like, what is fun for you playing as zealot? Like, what do you get out of that?
Well, you're surrounded by other zealots.
You sick bastard.
So. I can't take it. I can only give it. Well, now that I'm hitting puberty, apparently, part of it is since you're in a guild surrounded by people, you don't really come off like a zealot. I mean, when you're in the asylum and everyone's crazy, nobody really feels crazy. You're like, oh yeah, that's just how things are. So, it's perfectly acceptable where they're at. When you bump into other people, of course, there's also a lot of racism. So you really don't care what inferior beings think of you,
Right.
So it doesn't. There is that aspect of it too. But for me, I mean, I've never really played a religious character before. I take it back. Xanis was actually religious, but he was backwards in that because of things that had happened to him. He worshipped Tunar when he used to worship Inaric. Because of various things that happened in his life, and he was there to kill her, or sent to kill her back when the planes of power and the plane of growth had opened up, and he had lost his entire raid force, so to speak, and she had, because I based him off of Angel from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, for those that don't know, she had basically blessed him with the ability to feel. Which, of course, for him, for the longest time, was a horrible, horrible curse because suddenly 400 years of death, destruction, and mayhem, he felt bad for, So that was kind of where he came from. So he actually, and eventually he had a love-hate relationship with his goddess of choice, basically. But he did come around to understanding that he liked the new way as opposed to the old. Even if that had been somewhat forced upon him, he ended up making amends with it. With Tarvala, it's the Dunmer Society thing. Just being able to play something outside of it, for one, outside my comfort zone and playing a female, which Jazz, as you can attest, first time I've managed to actually hold on to that.
Yeah, you've tried before, but it never really
stuck.
No,
yeah.
Although you did it pretty well in that one toward the end.
The original Tarvala, yeah.
Right, the original Tarvala. You did really well with that one, but we were leaving the game and
yeah, and I might have given her more, but yeah, we were all getting burnt out and the game was suffering.
Starting a character during Armageddon, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
it was the end of the end, and yeah.
and probably one end beyond that. Yeah, there was a lot of ending. So
on multiple levels, yes.
Yeah, that's for Tarvala. Yeah, just being around, it's such a different thing. The religious ceremonies. I will admit, not all of them are my favorite thing. I don't go to church because I'm very, very easily distracted, and I end up not listening to anything at all. And a lot of the religious services in this, I zone in and out of because of the same thing. It's just my attention span to like sermons, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that style is definitely not for everybody. And
right.
That's why
and I love the role play around it. It's just, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate the fact that people do it and that they really enjoy it. I think it's awesome that they spend so much time and they know the lore so well. It's just not for me. It's kind of like poetry. I get it. I know people like it. Not really my bag, It's not a personal thing. It's nothing against whoever's doing it. It's just not for me. I mean, I still go to them sometimes, but I try. I really try. But I'm typically just like, well, okay, I'm there. I have to. It's part of the duties. But that I think that's why I've enjoyed Tarvala so much. It's just so different, so out of my comfort zone, and saying, like saying, the three bless you in your ways, like I'm not a person that goes around in real life that's like, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you, unless you're sneezing, I guess, then I'll throw that out at you. And that's more of a force of habit, more than anything. It's just, polite, I guess. Bless you.
Yeah, I think like saying those things is really fun. Like there is it's almost like getting to be in a cult without having to really join
without
a cult,
having to drink punch. Right.
Right, yeah.
Minus the giant punch bowl at the end of the night.
Once everybody starts drinking punch, I get to log off and be a normal person.
Right. Yeah. Here, everybody, pass around these peyote chips. It's like, I'm going to pass. Last time that happened, I woke up naked in a Walmart. That's, no, that's not going to happen this time. But in online, you can at least, you can take a hit off the peace pipe or the hookah or whatever religious thing you're doing and,
one of the cool things, one of the cool things about the Dunmer roleplay community in ESO is that, it feels pretty real as far as what the Dunmer would really be like in a society. It's and part of that is the religious insanity,
Yeah.
And that I loved when I used to go and interact in the Dunmer community, a lot of my characters, it really felt like you were walking into crazy town.
Yeah. Like walking down the streets of in the old Morrowind game or something like that, where they're always eyeballing you as being the outlander or the outsider.
And
I enjoy that on Sia, is that when she gets around a lot of Dunmer, she hates Dunmer for the most part. But she does this because she enjoys the thrill of knowing that she's outnumbered and she's surrounded by all these zealots. And she likes screwing with them, which is eventually going to get her killed.
Yeah.
But she keeps doing it because she just can't stop herself. But it is fun to be around a group of people that are true. I really believe that all roleplay needs conflict. If you can manage it without getting people mixing, it's a great deal of fun to have your character, whether it's a cop that's, like the knights were back in the day,
right.
or it's like these guys where they're the police of the area when you're in Vardenfell. It's nice to have that. It's fun to be challenged.
Yeah. What was that? The Knights of Freeport kind of.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Before they turned into.
Before they got, weird and godmoddy and ended up being really secular and cut themselves off from the community while still trying to be a part of it. But in the early days when they were ran by Pallid Mortis, yeah, thank you. I was like, Pallid.
And there was someone before him, but I never knew him. So
I knew him a little bit, but not enough to really remember his name. But then there were people afterwards that just kind of drove it in the ground.
Or just awful, yeah.
But yeah, under that, they would do patrols in the streets, and that was always cool. But and you get the same thing with and they weren't. I guess you wouldn't say they were really religious, but they were somewhat cult-like because of their following to Lucandelier of Freeport.
Yeah, because they worshiped
almost.
Luke.
Yeah.
Yes. They were a cult for all intents and purposes. They were.
It wasn't religious, but they worshipped an individual, and
they're
to
devoted
an insane level.
To the point of cult behavior.
Yeah.
And they had rites and rituals, and they were zealots. They were just zealots for someone who was alive and ran their city as a dictator. So it was quite fascinating, really, how it all happened.
They were like tiny little online North Korea.
Yeah, it was. It was actually, they did a really good job of making Freeport feel like you were in a dictatorship. It was well done. They did a really good job being oppressive. It was a lot, which made some people really angry because they were being infringed upon. They couldn't do, they're not the boss of me. But I enjoyed it because, one, I like conflict RP, and I liked that my character was like one of my other ones, Toyana, was always causing trouble, and they would call her on it, and I liked that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's like there's so much really fascinating history that is from religious conflict, like the Reformation and the Crusades and all that stuff, and it's just such fresh ground for storytelling. And so, like, that's one of the things that I've always loved about the Dunmer community. And I think, yeah, like you guys are saying, like that has caused conflict a lot because people like OOC get upset a lot of times because it's like, oh, you guys are being crazy. And it's like, well, yeah, we're role-playing Dunmer. We're supposed to be crazy and intense. And yeah, there's so much story to be told with religious conflict. So I think it's really fun.
Yeah, and so what was I know we've mentioned it before. It was before my time, but there was the big Roleplay Ashlander War, of which we have screenshots of from people that have been listeners of the show and that have sent them to me and stuff like that. Which was a giant roleplay conflict between, excuse me, trying not to hiccup. The Ashlanders, which are eventually right, and the Tribunal, which is eventually wrong. Right now they are, but it's like the way history goes. Right now, the Tribunal is in power. They have their three. They have their godlike powers, and those with the power rule. On the usual, see every movie made ever. So there was a big role play event, and that's happened specifically because of religion. That was what that whole thing basically came up and around about, and given it's hard to sometimes, run things on a massive scale like that. And that's why it's probably only happened the once, because people we're all flawed individuals, and there's always one guy that was upset that their losing side that knew they had to lose, or the winning side was not so good about it, or the way they ran it. I'm sure there's plenty of fault to go around. I wasn't there. I've only heard. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was wonderful. It was a really good time. And yeah, it was based on, religious themes. And I guess that would be a solid, good example of that working out. I have a couple of examples from my roleplay history of individuals who have pulled off the spiritual or religious character really well.
Too bad I don't want to hear about it. Just throw that list away. Throw it away. No, shoot, man. Let's hear it.
Okay, so this is back when I was playing World of Warcraft, back in Burning Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
There was a character named Ishbanir, and the guy who played him was a Christian in real life, and he roleplayed as an undead light follower. And if anybody here knows anything about the WoW lore, I know you guys don't know a whole lot.
A little. I know.
But
I know enough to know I don't know very much.
So basically, the undead have been separated from the light, which is like this benevolent force type thing. It's like if you took like the Force and added like churches and cathedrals.
Lights and
yeah. So like the undead are separated from the light forevermore, basically, because they're undead and it literally burns them. But he played this character who was just so cool. He ran a bookstore that was a guild in the undead city. But the bookstore's like back entrance led to like this little tiny like underground church, like something that you would see in North Korea,
Yeah.
And yeah, they would gather down there, and they would all come for their secret meetings and go down there and have their little prayers and stuff. And it was really fascinating because there was like your community and the Dunmer community, like there was a solid like authoritarian roleplay group around that like represented the Dark Lady's people, and they were always hunting these guys down and trying to stamp out their religion and stuff. And it was super cool.
No, yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, I get you. That's pretty interesting. And so, it's an interesting take too. Like, I know we have it down here further. How does your spirituality, your real world spirituality or religion affect your role play? So it's kind of interesting that a Christian guy would play the undead for one. I mean, I get it. It's fantasy. The separation between the two is clear. Anybody with common sense can see that. But that he would then take that and then mold something that's supposed to be a negative and turn it into a positive.
Totally. And like his character was really cool because he was like really like hopeful and like faithful despite like everything that was going against him, but like he couldn't feel the light anymore.
But just the memory of it.
Literally.
Yeah. It's like when somebody prays, they might feel something depending on what kind of person they are.
And in a fantasy setting, that might be an actual physical manifestation even,
Exactly.
Which he really, he was cut off from. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he was a super cool character, but like he also was like depressed, because
taking a little bit of Xanax now and then. Yeah.
But he was like, the player was just so good because he was like realistically depressed. Like he was cheerful and he would laugh a lot, but he was like,
but then he'd have his moments.
Deeply messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his character in mind would have like, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's cool when you get somebody that can, who out of character is just a good guy and can play the depression in a realistic way as opposed to the way a lot of depression kind of comes around, and Jazz knows where I'm going with this, which is the hot topic emo. Like I said last time,
my darkened soul.
Yeah. Oh, I'm undead, so I have to cut myself just to feel again. Okay. Yeah. That's not. I get it. It can be a version of depression. Usually, it's actually a little bit more of a psychosis than depression. But yeah, that's cool.
And who knows?
Like that.
Maybe he really was depressed and this was his way of like consolidating, trying to be like a hopeful Christian or whatever.
That's true.
Could be.
That's
you
true.
never know. Because everybody, it doesn't even.
You all put something into your characters
even the most,
to help deal with it.
Most faithful of individuals, have their moments of doubt. I was listening to I was listening to an interview with the director of The Exorcist. I mean, everybody aware of The Exorcist a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. I think
very
everybody
sad.
should be. I don't care how young you are.
The Exorcist. So this was the guy that had done The Exorcist. He did a lot of other movies, but it was an interview with him, and he has a documentary out, which while I'm talking, I'm going to have to look up because I still want to watch this. But he actually got it's called The Devil and Dr. Emort, which is Emort is E-M-O-R-T-H because the H is silent. So it's a documentary called The Devil and Dr. Demort, and he got permission from the Catholic Church to follow this guy around. And in the interview, the director, who I wish I could remember his name now, of The Exorcist, he said, if I had made The Exorcist today, he's like, I wouldn't have done anything different, but he says, I will say the real thing is far more terrifying. And he got permission to follow this. It's one of the few exorcists, and of course the Dr. Amort is he's passed away now, so I don't know who's doing this now, but they followed him around, and he went to it was an Italian woman who was an architect. She's not some crazy person living on the street. She's an architect. She's very intelligent. And he had said that when she came in, he was like, why is this woman here? Why? There's no reason for her to be here. And when he began to do the exorcism, which, for the way exorcisms work, for anyone not aware of how it's supposed to go, it's not the power of the priest. That's why they call on Jesus. They call on the power of Christ. The power of Christ compels you. It's them bringing Jesus into it, and the power of Jesus is the one that's actually bringing forth this demon. And once they did that, he said she was not the same person. She was speaking in Latin, which is a language she doesn't know, and they got this all on film, which is why I'm fascinated to watch this. But he, it's a lot of what you typically think of in an exorcism, only apparently far more scary and far more disturbing. Because he's like, we got a lot of it right in The Exorcist, but we didn't do, the spitting of the blood or the spitting of the pea soup and stuff like that. I mean, it would work for a movie, but the real thing is just far more terrifying. But what happened too was that he was also interviewed an archbishop in the Catholic Church, not a small figure. They're pretty higher up in the hierarchy, and he had said, was asking him questions, and he's like, why wouldn't you do this? Why don't you do this? And he says because only so many there's only so many people that are allowed to do such a thing, are allowed to do an exorcism, because your faith in Christ and in God and everything like that has to be so powerful that if it isn't, he's like, I'm an archbishop. My faith is nothing compared to his. So this archbishop is admitting, there's different levels of faith, and he knows his weakness, that if he went around something, and that's a given. If you don't believe in demons and devils and things like that, this may not mean a lot to you, but it's fascinating to me, regardless of what it is, because just the idea, I don't pretend to know that humanity knows everything that there is to know, because we keep forgetting that salt is good, and then the next day it's bad. And eggs are good.
Exactly.
Things change, clearly. There's so much beyond our probably physical senses and realm of understanding. I don't really cut anything out of the realm of possibility, probability, right, maybe, but not possibility. So, but the fact that this guy was an archbishop and knew he was not of a faith on the level of this Dr. Amort was just a fascinating thing to hear, that to be able to perform these spiritual rites and to do these exorcisms. I'm really, really looking forward to. I need to watch that documentary. I think it's on Hulu or something like that now. But the fact that it was done by the guy that did The Exorcist, and he listening to him too, he's not like an actual believer. Like, he's not. I don't know that he's a faithful, like, Christian kind of a guy, but he is a very well spoken, very well thought out. And he's like, I couldn't explain any of this. I don't know how this came about. I don't understand it. And it was terrifying. I've never been, he's a grown ass, like, 70-year-old man. And he's like, I was terrified of this, tiny Italian woman,
Yeah.
Just, he said that the feeling in the room, all this stuff, and taking stuff like that, like, I've got a whole bunch of role play scenes based off that interview. I've got a whole bunch of role play scenes I want to play out in like the servants of the tribunal with, like, exorcisms and things like that. And then even more so, maybe even some that aren't actually what they appear to be, going off the old hoaxes in the early 1900s when the spiritualist movement kind of came about, the hoaxsters, the roadside Christian tents, like, exorcise the demons in the name of the Lord,
You do that very well.
the hucksters,
there's gonna be a revival in this town.
Be healed, you shall walk again. It's the same kid getting up out of the wheelchair from city to city, because there were, I'm not making fun of Christianity, don't think that, but there were hucksters, there were charlatans and scam artists that took advantage.
And still are.
And there still are. Trust. They're just not.
Yeah.
They're not as roadside as they were in the 1920s, right?
Now they're a little slicker and wear nicer clothes.
Right. But that kind of stuff. It's a fascinating thing, and to be able to pull stuff like that into. I'm really looking forward to it, because there's old. I've told you guys to listen to the podcast called Lore, because you will have a lot of great ideas if you like running roleplay events, and the ones where they get to people like the spiritualist movement and stuff like that took off in the early 1900s. is fascinating. Really, really good stuff. So,
there's so much cool stuff you can
and you can really, really go at it with that stuff. Because even if you're not playing a religious character, like just running an event where like, well, is this or isn't this like a ghost or a spirit or a demon or this or that, you know, and or if it's a fraud even, you know, the stuff like that is kind of interesting to play on. But so you said you had, that was your Christian undead guy. So there was that guy.
Yeah.
Your undead Christian.
Yep, of course.
Which we will call Jesus.
Well, I mean, there's always
That
Ozzy
bad,
Osbourne.
Santa.
He's pretty.
What? It was.
That was bad.
I just said all that stuff.
Please keep going.
You expect less of me.
So my other good example was a dude named. His character's name was Sibh'Bae, and he was a troll witch doctor. And I played like a reluctant young shaman that was like punk rock and wanted to go. You know, do his thing, smoke peace bloom and all of that. But yeah, he like sort of became a guide for my character, and my character was like, man, I hate the spirits, or man, I hate the spirits. I don't like them. I don't want to talk to them. And and there was this time I came up to him and was like, complaining about that, and Sibh'Bae was like, okay, come into my hut, let's try this. And he like pulls out a candle and lights the candle and tells me to try to talk to the spirit, and I get a whisper from a character named Candle Spirit. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like saying like, can you hear me, Janjaru, and stuff like that. And it ended up being this super cool role play where my character for the first time interacted with the spirit, you know. And
very clever.
Right, dude. And like it was his, and this was not he didn't know I was gonna show up.
He
like,
just had this like waiting in the wind. Yeah.
And it was his wife playing.
Oh, okay. That's even cooler, yeah.
So it was super cool, and it just like, but that's just like, and it, you know, it became like a journey and stuff. And he did these great role plays where he would be like, oh, you have a problem, an emotional problem, a spiritual problem. Like, let's go do a thing to fix that, you know, gather this herb or whatever, do this ritual. And like, I think that's a really cool way to take spiritual role play, is to like turn it into a quest, you know, make it more than just like sitting around waxing philosophical to each other.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Although that's fun too. I mean, I've had lots of, like,
they're both entertaining in different ways. 'Cause like we all say in like it's character development. You know, it's the journey as much as the destination. So if you start off on the spiritual journey, that's just as enjoyable. You know, and if your character's already, you know, to be an ordinator, for example, I kind of had to already kind of be there, because if she wails and waffles, she'll die. So it's not really, there's only so much wiggle room you have in a zealot, you know, kind of filled organization.
Which is why I love you that guild, but I have no characters that would not end up dead. So unfortunately, that's just not an option.
Which is why I rolled up a new one to do that. That's why Tarvalda came to be. I was like, Kenix, I already had a thing for him and things like that. And I was like, I'll try it. I want to try them out again. And, you know, knew them from 3 years ago, now 4 years ago. Good Lord. Let's try this, you know, and it stuck, oddly enough.
Well, and also I feel like with Tarvala, you could have an interesting, like, what does she feel internally versus what does she have to express outwardly?
Yeah, and she does. She actually, there's things going on with her that I have not brought out to light, that are going to eventually come forth, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays, because it's not necessarily heretical, but it'll be outside of what I think they've had to deal with before. So we'll see. You know, I don't want to spoil it here, because, you know, I don't like spoiling things, but I will tell it on the air once I get there. Gotta play it close to the chest. So did you have, any other examples from actual people?
Those were my two.
Okay, so making sure I didn't want to move on before you'd gotten all of them. You know?
I mean, I've definitely seen lots of bad ones too. You know, like you guys were talking about in a few episodes back about the young kid trying to be the wise old sage. I've seen that one fall apart.
Yes, we've all seen that one fall apart.
I know the gods and their will. It's candy.
They will you to play Minecraft.
That's right. in Minecraft's name we pray. Get that pig. So, all right. So let's see. Does the spirituality affect the way you role play? How do you do this? Is there something maybe subconsciously, like you were saying about like the Christian guy with his possible, the way he played depression? Maybe he was, and he just played it off like that. I think a lot of role players play out physical or mental and emotional states through their characters as well. I don't think that's unique to a religious aspect. I think that's just something human nature in our storytelling. A lot of writers really, I mean, like you said, Jazz, the old thing, write what you know, and if you know depression, it's gonna come through. If you know religion, it's gonna
pretty
come
much
through.
Unavoidable.
Yeah,
and it's like Miri was very shamanistic, so that was nice because I could play that off more from what I knew about my own beliefs. So that was kind of fun because I had never really publicly with anyone worked with that. So that was fun because most people that knew Miri, as you won't know her, Floyd, but Xanis did, they wouldn't think of her as being spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
But she was very devout to the shamanistic ancestors, the moon, the night, kind of a thing. She had an almost cultish devotion to that stuff. So I got to play it sometimes out with certain people who'd be like, blink, blink, what?
Yeah.
Because she would go all devout on them, or she'd get angry because somebody was saying this is stupid, and she'd be like, don't you do that.
Yeah. Don't be rude. Use your words.
Yeah.
I can really relate to that, Jazz, actually. Because I think we maybe have a similar thing going on with like the nature worship type thing.
Yeah.
I think you both have that vibe going.
Yeah. Well, I would probably have been Buddhist. I just, at the time when I was really studying it, there was no opportunity
Didn't
to
have a lot of
pursue
orange
it.
robed guys near you.
Yeah.
Not a lot of them up in the middle of nowhere where you live.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like I met with every conceivable religion that was available to me at the time, including Judaism, both like, is it called Kabbalah?
Yeah.
Kabbalah is
both
the
Kabbalah
cult.
and the tradition. I mean, I knew both, so I researched that, and I did a lot into like the Norwegian pagans, which was very popular in Iowa City for a while. So I got to meet some people in that regard, and of course, every kind of Christianity sidebar you can imagine. Most of which I would backpedal out of there so fast you'd see hairpins in the air.
Whoa! I know you're not denigrating my religion. My Presbyterian means a lot to me.
Well, you could be I like Presbyterian.
No, I didn't say Presbyterian. I said Frisbyterian. Oh. You know what I mean?
Oh, Frisbyterian.
Right. When I die inside, my soul gets stuck on the ceiling and I can't get it down, which is why I have to die outside. I know you're not insulting my beliefs.
Okay, I totally back you on that.
Also, hold this bag of snakes. It's unrelated. Okay, I will say the snake handler guys, y'all are a little bit out there.
Well, see, now you're walking into my wheelhouse here.
That old good backwoods religion.
Them's my people.
Those are your people. Yeah, if God will heal the venom, except for when he doesn't. Yeah, that's it's still a dangerous animal, and I get it. But
they put their hand on your forehead and go, Jesus has healed you. All of that. So I grew up on the cultish side of Christianity, which is probably why I'm the way I am when it comes to Christianity. But like
not a huge fan.
No, you want to make Jazzy run out of the room, start that nonsense. She's just going to be like, wow, I left the oven on. I got to go.
Yeah, and I understand. And stuff like that in any religion, anybody that comes up to me is like, have you been saved? Do you know Allah? Leave me alone. Like I said, I'm here for Captain Crunch. Just leave me alone.
The other day, this lady walked up and said, have you found Jesus? And said he's in the trunk. And she wasn't amused. She walked away. But I can't help it. And the thing is, my sons just looked at me, and my middle boy was like, Mom, that was really rude. I'm like, you're right. That was. I'm sorry. It came from my gut. It just happens when these people talk to me.
At least you're leaving behind a more tolerant generation.
Yes. I have tried really hard.
At least you didn't make the Hispanic joke.
I had to go apologize to her.
Oh,
so
that was good of you.
Oh, that was
I went and apologized because she was stalking around, and I said, excuse me, ma'am. And she was like, if all you're going to say, look, I'm sorry. That was completely rude of me. It's not your fault that my mother is a harpy. I am really sorry.
Right.
And look, Jazz, you didn't even need religion to do the right thing.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
And I wanted to hit on that too. Because one of my favorite people of all time is Penn Teller. Or Penn Jillette. Penn Teller. Penn and Teller.
I was going to say Penn and Teller, but Penn is one person.
Penn Jillette, who is an atheist. He doesn't believe in God.
Who is a lot of fun to listen to, by the way.
He is
a
fascinating individual, but he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, but he doesn't have that, he doesn't really believe in religion. But there was a time he was also really, if you watch some of his episodes of Bullshit, he was actually very bigoted against it.
Yes, he was.
He's actually changed that. He's come to a more because he's a he's a very libertarian kind of a guy. He's a live and let live that, and he had actually come to realize like, oh, I'm really kind of being bigoted towards this stuff. I don't need to believe in it. I don't need to like it, but
right, you can be respectful, and that's
exactly.
And that's why I went and apologized, because I wanted my boys to see that I preach what I say, which is even when it's hard for me.
Right, and that's
I go apologize because she wasn't gracious at all.
Right, and that's okay. But you did the right thing, so that doesn't matter.
I backpedaled out of there and was like, thank you. That's all I wanted to say. I have to go now, and she just kept on, and I just walked away while she was babbling.
Yeah.
But
and that's what
Nathan was like, that was really nice, Mom. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the example you want to set for your kids. And
yes.
What I like, because some people need religion, just like characters in real life. They need that set of core beliefs from the Bible or the Quran or the Torah.
Religion wouldn't exist if humans didn't need it on some level.
Right, and it helps center them. It helps keep them helping to ignore like their baser needs. They're like, hey, she's got boobs and I'm married to this one, but look at that one,
I like how you went Mark Hamill Joker with that.
That was
fantastic.
Look
at that one over there. I'm gonna break me off a piece of that.
Oh my God.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
But like someone like Penn Jillette, he has the not smoking, the not drinking. Like he turned down one of his favorite, like one of the big, I can't remember the guy's name. He's a huge atheist in the atheist community. He's one of his like longtime heroes, a British guy. This dude flew all the way to Vegas to meet and for them to meet at Penn Jillette's house. He was also a hardcore alcoholic. And he actually came to Gillette's house with a bottle of whiskey, and this guy had flown all that way, and Penn Jillette had looked at him and said, I can't let you in the house with that. We don't allow alcohol and cigarettes in the house. And he's like, I just flew all the way over here to talk specifically to you. I'm on your porch, and you're going to tell me I can't come in with this. He's like, yeah, that is kind of what I'm saying. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this, because it's his hero. It's his idol. And the guy sets the bottle on the porch and goes inside to talk to him. They have their talk. He leaves. He picks it up, and then he goes about his, business. But he respected the decision enough to go ahead and do that, which, And
says a lot about both of them.
It says a lot about both of them, and Pendulette, stuck with his beliefs and guns, and he doesn't have the religious backing. Some people do. Now, and is either one of those versions wrong? No, not necessarily. Whatever helps you not be a murdering psychopath is good, in my opinion.
Somebody walks their own path.
Right.
Yep. Exactly. And I think that as a role player, I want to say that I try to do that as well. It can get very, very hard, as you've seen in our personal little chat area, that there are days when it is very, very hard to let someone role play, whatever, that I have to just go in there and say, I will keep my mouth shut. I will keep my mouth shut. I will keep my mouth shut, because it's hard. But everybody has that right, religiously and roleplay wise.
Yeah, and roleplay is a good training ground for that too, in a lot of ways.
It can be, because it lets you kind of get free thought. Let's be honest. The idea of, look at the not to bring politics and stuff into it. Look at the thing with Kanye West, who I am not a fan of. Says one thing, and one side that used to love him now hates him, and one side that used to hate him now loves him. I still think he's an idiot
ridiculous.
Regardless. It's stupid.
Yes,
but what he had said about free thought, he basically they proved for him, and I'm not a fan of Kanye West. I don't like rap. He's an idiot for one. I'm not a fan of half the things he says, but he's still right. Free thought is a thing. The expression of thought, whether it be religious thought, political thought, just thought in general. That's how things happen. That's how we got science. It's like someone's like, maybe, now hear me out, maybe we revolve around the sun. Somebody had to throw that out there at one point, maybe if we took the corners off of this block, it would, we need to invent a word, roll. How about roll? It would roll. Yeah. Somebody had to, it came about at some point, given it might have been, thag roll, but still, the idea, the being able to question stuff and being able to think for yourself is very important. And when you get into the groupthink stuff, it's when things go bad. But
yeah, well, that's why all throughout history, all of the new ideas have always been heavily, heavily challenged before they become accepted. It's just the way it goes.
Like my Presbyterianism.
One day.
One day it'll be the Church of Presbyterianism will be on every street corner across the world. But for now, it's just me and one kid in South Dakota. Let's see here. To move this along. What I wanted to get to is the counter people, not people that work at counters, but people that play the counter, that play, say, the atheist or the agnostic, of a usually deeply religious race. And I get it. Just like individuals or groups of people, there's always variations and grades. But some of them do it, it's like we said, dude, Tunar and Inaruk are having a beer right over there. What do you mean you don't believe in them? Are they doing that because have they come up with an actual story, or are they just is it because of what you were saying, Floyd? Is it their real life influence being I don't want to believe in any religion, period, even a fake one in an online game? Or are they, trying to be the cool kids or the counterculture,
Yeah,
what do you think on that?
I can't blame anybody for being repulsed by organized religion. I think everybody can agree at this point that it's nasty a lot of times. And so I think for some people, it's just that they're so tired of it that it's just I don't even want to role play that, man.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the largest reason why I just can't. I'm just so burned by what happened that I can't even. That's a real. I just can't even.
I can't even. You're just going full clueless. I just can't even right now with this place.
No, I just can't go there. As much as I want to, as much as I think it would be cool, for example, to be in that guild, And I just think that it would bother me to do that.
You know, and I'll tell you something. Just full, I'm full disclosure here. Like, it actually bothered me a little bit at first because I was raised, Christian. I was born into a Catholicism thing, but we never really did it. My dad is actually a really religious guy and stuff like that. And he's, and I grew up with it. My mom and stepdad, he was kind of religious, but we actually went to church, or anything like that. But I've always grown up with Christianity. That's the faith of basically my entire family. And I will say, at times I was like, it was a little uncomfortable because I was playing the part of this religious person with Tarvala, and there were times I was actually physically uncomfortable with it before and I just had to keep, it's just role play. It's not an actual thing. You don't believe in the three. There's that whole no sacred cows or things before me, it's like, dude, it's just role play. It's no more different than if you make up a story, but I still had that deep-seated sort of like, this makes me a little uncomfortable kind of thing that now I don't care. I've worked through it, and I've made it, whether I guess some people would say I've rationalized myself out of it. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably a couple priests or preachers out there who'd be like, yeah, you're still sinning. But
well, I can
to realize
relate to that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. At some
so
point,
I'm not the only crazy person here that felt like that. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I was actually raised Christian, even though I don't really consider myself one now. And I was like the really nerdy, weird kid in high school that was like, you guys, the Bible.
Yeah. Me too.
Nice, Jazz. We're the same person. Good to know.
I have a lot of cringy moments to think about. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. But yeah, I was super cringy, and that was also the time that I was starting roleplay, and I had this picture. Chat.
It's a picture of a cat on a counter that looking at a statue of Jesus. Says, fighting Jesus. He was on top of the bookcase the whole time. For podcast people that can't see that. All right, go ahead.
Oh.
But yeah, I was playing a Tauren, and wow, that was kind of my first MMO character. And I started role-playing the whole, like, Earth Mother worship and all of that stuff and nature spirits. And at first I was really uncomfortable. I was like, I think I'm sinning right now. Because
the whole, like you said, the sacred, there's no God before me, sacred cow, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And there's that little, no matter, I think this is something that anybody that was raised Christian can relate to. There was always that little voice in the back of your head that is saying, you're not supposed to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's cool because it actually, like, I kind of was also getting to the point in my life where I was like, okay, wait, how is it that only this one book is the only thing that's right, and blah, 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 and started expanding into different spiritualities. But role-playing as a Tauren and like really getting into that mindset actually is part of what brought me
made you question.
Like, yeah, made me question, and eventually brought me to like my current spirituality. So it was when they say playing role playing is going to make you leave Jesus, sometimes maybe it's true.
You're the devil. Hey Kishmas, how's it going, bud?
What's up?
Kishmas, HumanFloyd, Kishmas.
Kishmas, it's nice to meet you.
My good sir.
I feel like I know you just from hearing your voice on the shows.
It's a little weird, ain't it, Kishmas?
Not really.
No, I was talking about you. You're a little weird.
Not really.
Also, Kishmas, I just I want to applaud you for turning 22.
Oh my God!
Ah, yes. Just for you, Jazz.
What? You guys have never heard the sound of one hand clapping?
Oh. Only when I talk to the smiling sorcerer.
Oh my God.
Love you, Smiley. What? It's a cerebral palsy joke. You can make those, right? That's acceptable socially?
Possibly.
Nobody? Guess not. No, he knows I love him. He's actually got his new computer and setup. I'm so happy for him. He's got a brand new computer, brand new touchscreen monitor that he can draw on. He's actually a very talented artist. Unfortunately, he's having trouble getting the monitor to work, but that's beside the point. So back to spirituality.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing, scroll up here real quick. You and Faye asked, and I wanted to hit it. I think she had said, do you find it more difficult to find what I had said than if I had said it when I first read it? Okay, there. Doggone it. There it is. Do you guys find it harder to RP a strongly religious character, or to RP opposite a strongly religious character? Boy, if I could learn to read English. So which one do you find more difficult to play at times? The strongly religious character or the opposing like non-religious version of that same thing?
Oh, totally.
Depends on the game lore.
That's true.
A good answer.
That is true. That's a really good answer. But largely the person, like when I played Tor, my character was a Sith and worshipped the Force. So there was no
That was
wiggle
easy.
room. Yeah, that was easy.
How could you be on the console but not have the rank of master?
It's a prequel reference, Jess.
Oh, yeah. See, I wouldn't know anything about that. So I enjoyed the game, but I really had to go to my go-to folks to make sure it was lore correct, because I didn't know I saw the first 3 movies, which were the
original
movies.
3 movies, yeah.
Yeah, the original 3 movies. That's it. That's all I know. So when I went and played the game, I had to learn. And I really enjoyed the game, and I played a very piece of work that was a lot of fun to play.
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't have a problem playing a religious character as long as it can be supported. Again, I don't have a problem with it because in most games,
well, and the Force is
there's no faith. It's just
right, and the Fourth isn't even so much a deity as it is like with the Dunmer or the Daedra or Tunar or Interruk or anything like that. The Force was more like, I mean, it's the Force. It's this energy
So
field.
again, we're right back to where it was. So I don't have a problem doing that. But like in this game, there's a little bit more involved because not everybody believes, for example, that the 3 are gods. So there is a level of faith involved. Huh?
Nothing.
Something about heresy and we'll burn you alive at the stake.
Yeah. So I find it easier to play the person that doesn't believe than the person who does, but largely because I think I've spent so much of my life, both first as a very religious person and then as the person who didn't. And I find that being the skeptic is easier for me to play stress-wise than it is for me to delve into religion and have to deal with all of that. So that's my answer.
That's fair. Floyd?
I mean, for me, it's easier to play a spiritual character than a religious character. I play religious characters to challenge myself a little bit, like playing heretics or not heretics, zealots.
Right.
And they're fun, and I really like playing zealots, but for me to play a character that is just kind of like in touch with, again, like nature, or like in touch with their internal struggle, their internal exploration, like that's supernatural for me, so that it comes out in my roleplay a lot, just because that's the stuff that I'm interested in.
Yeah. What about you, Kish?
I mean, I don't play a religious zealot at all. No, definitely not.
And definitely not a commander of many religious zealots.
No, absolutely not.
No, they're perfectly normal.
Exactly.
Like I said before you got here, all the crazy people in the asylum, who's crazy? Not me.
Exactly.
Look at this guy rubbing poo on the floor.
I don't know if it's not really hard or easy for me. I just kind of go with the flow. Like, if I see a theme that's spiritual, I'll go with it. If it's not spiritual, I also go with it. It doesn't matter to me. As long as I'm having fun while doing it, then what's the point, What's the point of, what was I going to say? I completely fumbled my words, so let me just stay quiet for a minute.
Fumblinski, Fumbleraya, Fumblinski.
You just don't have a preference.
I don't really have a preference, yeah.
Yeah, you basically just like...
Plus, I've only ever played 3 total characters in RP, and that was one in Nation States a long-ass time ago, one in the Daggerfall Covenant, and now Regier. That's it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, I'm so old.
Well, he's only 22.
I know.
I'm so glad you did it. I didn't want to be the guy to do it 2 times in a row.
I torture her. I
am going to never drink when I am on this show ever again. You just about killed me.
That's probably wise.
Which, to derail this completely, next time you guys do a drinking episode, please count me in. I am so...
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, boy. I tell you what, Floyd, that was way harder than I think any of us thought it would be.
Dude, I know.
It's just 2 letters and RP roleplay, and then don't say that.
Yeah,
really hard to do.
I know a game that you would all lose instantly. It'd be not a whole episode without saying the word like.
No.
That would be hard.
Jazz.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like completely. Yeah. Completely. I say like a lot.
Yes.
Like a lot.
Let's there's two of them here before we get to our little special thing at the end. One is more of a personal question I have, just because I find it curious. Does it take more faith to not believe, or does it take as much faith to not believe as it does to believe? Is the faith it takes to believe in a greater deity or something that you can't see or prove, does it take that as much faith to do that as it does to believe that there's no chance that there's no greater power out there? I mean, they're both leaps of faith. In my opinion, they're both leaps of faith in a way. They're both almost a religion, and to me, honestly, atheism at some point almost becomes a religion unto itself. To some people,
a way.
To prove the non-existence of God, which is just as ridiculous to me as trying to prove the existence of a God.
Right. Well, I think when it comes down to it, the only logical thing that you can say is nobody knows. And yeah, I would say that it does, to believe for certain in really anything, it does take a certain degree of faith, I think, because we don't know. We could be in the Matrix.
That was, do you know?
If we were in the Matrix, wouldn't the aliens be gods then?
Do you know what some of the Stephen Hawking's last things were before he passed away? What his last writings were?
No.
Lol, lit fam, lol.
Ha 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 ha. No, he actually came to he was actually proposing the idea and the belief that we are in some sort of computer, right? And he's not the only one of these brilliant geniuses, that we're in some sort of virtual construct, that reality as we know it is not the reality that we should know, that it is almost a Matrix-like thing, was some of the last things that he was contemplating and doing work on.
I mean, we're all technically organic robots.
Yeah.
It's scary, when they zoom into light, as close as you can possibly zoom into it, it appears to not move fluidly like you would expect it to. They say that it hops one space over. When you're as zoomed in as you can possibly be looking at light, it looks like it jumps like a pixel, from one section to another.
It's
given kind of weird shit.
If we are, I have to say the polygon count is far higher than our current video games.
Agreed.
And I want that VR headset that allows me to think that some fantasy game is the actual real world, because it'll probably make a lot more sense at times. So, anybody else have a take on that? It's really just more curious. The faith to believe, to not believe.
I have known a lot of atheists, and I have always posed to them that they have faith. They have faith that there is no God. They can't prove it any more than I can prove that there is a God. So it is still faith. Mm-hmm. And as zealously as some believe there is no God,
and to some of the extents they'll go to try to help prove, just like someone would, just like the religious person will give. There's
really no difference.
Circumstantial evidence of, the lack of evolution, for example, that there's no missing link, that there's no this or that, or what was that one that that ended up being false because it was made out of chicken bones and plaster? The Paleo Man,
Yeah.
Evolutionists were pointing to that forever, and then it ended up being false. So now the religious people point to that, and back and forth. But
There's, and that's one thing. My son wanted to be an atheist, or said he was initially. My oldest boy.
That's also somewhat of a phase. I mean, I was in that whole phase.
It is, and he started talking about that, and he wanted to talk about it because he knew that
you gotta have the conversation. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I was like, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm simply saying that you will have to think long and hard about this, because what do you really believe?
Exactly. It's incomprehensible to the point where it scares you because you don't know. Because I went through the same phase in the late teens. I was like, I back science all the way. Then as I got older, I started doing like lore. I started like looking at actual world lore and doing all this, reading online, doing all these history sites and going through different TV shows. I'm like, well, I guess I really can't be, because it doesn't disprove or prove anything.
Right.
So now I'm just agnostic because I don't know. You don't know.
See, I'm agnostic, and that's what I told him, is I don't believe in any particular God. But most of the atheists that I know that are hardcore atheists are Buddhists.
Wait,
right.
What?
There are various forms of Buddhism that do not use God. That are
okay. I was like, wait, what?
But they're Buddhism.
I mean, it's called Buddhism after the guy named Buddha.
Well, yes, but it's a theory.
Not necessarily a god, though.
He was a man, but still, I mean,
Buddha was a teacher. He was never a god. So they don't actually worship a god. They worship a teacher.
Okay, see,
and
Booty, on the other hand, is a god.
Right.
Yeah.
The god of booty. I mean, oh man.
So anyway,
yeah.
I had this conversation with my son and explained that you can be spiritual and not believe in a god.
Yeah. I I want to get this Spiro Vec in the chat.
Okay.
Door-to-door atheists. I don't know why. Do you not believe in God? Would you like not to? Do you not know Jesus Christ? Good. I don't know.
Good. Here, have a calculator.
That
Goodbye.
seems like a College Humor skit or something like that. Door-to-door atheism. Okay, so moving on to our last bit here, and this whole episode actually is brought to you by TheHumanFloyd, because this is actually his idea. I mean, we wanted to hit kind of religious, and we'll hit politics eventually, and ERP on our 50th episode. That'll be our ERP episode,
politics.
folks. Just hitting it now. 8
The
episodes.
politics behind ERP.
Right. But Floyd actually, even all the way back in episode 10, he's the one that actually had this idea, which is why I've been holding on to it until he, was able to come back and, wanted to do it. And so this last one, this was one he put in here. So I'm assuming you've got something in here, Floyd. Has your RP contributed to your spiritual path? Does it help you grow as a person? Do you consider personal growth or spiritual practice experience? Has RP interactions with RPers ever affected you on a deep personal level? Do you accomplish, spiritual goals through RP? I'm assuming you probably have a few answers for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a jacked question.
Yeah, but no, it makes sense. Like you said with your Christian undead Christian, which is what I'm going to call him now.
Totally.
You're undead Christian. Yeah. He kind of did his Christianity in a way through his character.
Totally. Yeah, and so actually for a while there, people on the Daggerfall Covenant may know of Blue Ember. She is a community leader over there. She's super cool. She actually started a little Discord group that didn't end up being super active, but it was like a group of spiritual role players. And I've met lots of Norse heathens that are role players and stuff. And I just wanted to put it out there. I just feel like it's something worth talking about and noting, because for some people that are spiritual, they don't really have anywhere to go to because we're all so scared of organized religion.
In the internet.
And the internet, exactly. Yeah. So it's like
that's a reasonable fear. I mean,
yeah, there's not like a good place to go and talk about a lot of this kind of stuff or explore ideas because you're worried about pissing somebody off. Like, I'll be honest, like I was a little anxious for this show, and I'm never anxious for podcasts because I was like, man, topic, I don't know, this is a super sensitive topic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of a thing. It's part of what I want with this show is that you can have a discourse, that you can actually have a conversation without making it personal. Like what you guys believe, I may not agree with. I'm not going to tell you if I do or not, honestly, because it doesn't matter. You believe what you believe. I have no reason in my personal life. I get nothing out of trying to change your mind, unless you're trying to kill people, then yeah, I'm going to probably take that personally and try to change your mind. But, it's another thing that another founder's quote, Thomas Jefferson, if it neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg, what concern is it of mine?
Totally.
Right. You're not, you can believe what you want to believe. As long as you're not stealing from me or trying to physically harm me, let bygones be bygones. I like having uncomfortable conversations. Jazz? We have had some serious, and we've had some heated debates, but we don't make it personal. I don't start insulting you as a commie pig, even if you might be one. No, I'm kidding. Mm-hmm. She's not.
No, she's not.
But I make the joke. But you have to, just like with all things, you have to be able to have that intellectual honesty. And if you can't have a conversation, that says more about you than it does about the people around you or whatever they may or may not believe in.
Yeah, totally. And like for all of the pitfalls of the roleplay community as a whole, like one of the nice things about roleplay is that you can explore topics like this pretty safely because you have like the guise of the three over it or whatever. And it makes it a lot easier to try out ideas and stuff. And I think it would be, I personally, I've gotten a lot out of like testing out different philosophies and faiths and stuff through roleplay characters.
Kind of like a scientific,
yeah.
somewhat scientific, to go into a religious scientific experiment to see like, all right, well, if we pose this question, how will so-and-so react? Like that.
Totally. And also just to see like, man, I really don't get these people. Let's roleplay one and see how they think.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. And Jess says, she doesn't know if she could play somebody in the tribunal. I almost think that's exactly why you should try.
Yeah.
I know.
I know it.
I treat you real nice. Just kidding. I would probably piss you off.
You got real pretty ears.
I've pissed at least one of everyone off in that guild.
Not me. You even shoved a dirty rag in my character's mouth.
Yeah.
No, because there were other people that were far worse around you.
Exactly.
You were the lesser of two evils, so you were all right. But no,
that's true.
All
of the baddies around me overshadowed the fact that I threw my sweat rag in her mouth.
I wouldn't say throw, more like shoved vigorously.
Eat it.
But yeah, and that's all fair. I've learned kind of a lot by playing Tarvala and being in a very religious oriented guild as opposed to the mercenary ones and things like that you and I have done for the longest time, Jazz. Mm-hmm. It's just been a different experience, and it's been, because of that, it's been interesting. And I've had problems with it, but most of my problems with it were not so much the RP itself as the people that were doing it, and were doing it.
Yeah.
Were kind of god modding and doing it poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I stand on that. But has it grown me as a spiritual person? It's maybe solidified more or anything. It's made me more curious, perhaps. But I kind of have known where I believe and where I stand. I'm never not willing to, or I guess that's a double negative, but I'll go with it. Never not willing to not listen to somebody else's thing.
Wow, loop-de-loop.
Yeah. 3 wrongs make a wrong? I don't know.
Yeah. There you go.
Correct!
Correct, sir. Great Whoopadini, if you want to call in, we're going to lock it up here real quick soon. So if you want to call in, do it right now. But yeah, because we have one little thing left of this, and then we'll be wrapping it up. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Does anybody else have anything on how that's guided them?
I think that it solidified kind of where I was anyway, and it's helped me be more comfortable with who I am. Because I've tried so many different things and fit into so many different things that I think it helped me. It also, RP has given me, both because I run a guild and because I've had terrible things happen and wonderful things happen, that it certainly has helped me as a whole be more patient with people who are religious, because I don't think that I was patient at all with them when I started. I was pretty much in the fly away category.
You've definitely evolved on it, yeah.
I'm no longer terrified of it. I don't see people who start blathering about religious stuff and I don't immediately vacate, because now I can
get
sit
annoyed
and talk.
or upset by it or
Right.
worried.
Or I'm just like, I can't have this conversation anymore. I'm done. I can stay and work it out, because through our people and through OOC, learning to be around a wide range of people has certainly helped grow.
Yeah. All right. And with that, real quick, we'll go real quick to our call lines and the great Whoopdini. Welcome to the show, great Whoopdini.
Hey.
If he's there, are they there? Are they
Ding,
there?
ding, ding.
Uh-oh.
Ding, ding,
Uh-oh.
ding.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose him?
No, he's still there. I'm not. There.
Hey, what's up?
Ah,
Just
there,
There we go.
How's it going? There we go. All right. So what you got, great Whoopdini? Oh. Give him a second here to...
How's
Those
that?
microphones. How's it going? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
All right, cool. So what you got, Whoopdini? What have you got? Hello?
Sorry, I forgot I had push to talk on.
Oh. That's all right. Go ahead. What have you got, man?
I'm only just now catching the end of the episode, but coincidentally it's extremely relevant because my main character, I come at the religious roleplay thing from, like, a similar angle, but slightly different from what you guys have been talking about, like learning to empathize with people
Mm-hmm.
who have different beliefs from you. How to phrase this? I do it because I want to be those people. Like, I wish I could be religious, but I can't.
So you're just too pessimistic to actually be able to take that leap of faith that there's something greater out there.
I wouldn't say pessimistic.
I just can't think of a better word.
It just doesn't sit squarely in my mind. I really like theology in an academic sense, and I love learning about different philosophies and saints from different, well, saints are mainly a Christian thing, but, different religious figures from
Right.
world history, and I find the subject fascinating. It's just...
Taking the somewhat, it's more like not so much pessimism, but like the leap of faith to it. Like, is it your own like the science behind it or things like that, or just you just can't take that final leap of faith to go into it, so you role play kind of with them in order to just like get a taste of it, like that.
Yeah, kind of. It's like, I wish that I had that comfort in my life of that certainty of that faith, but I'm just a naturally skeptical person, and no cognitive tricks I've ever been able to do have ever felt like anything more than, well, role-playing.
Right, or cognitive tricks. Right.
Yeah, like, I know I'm fooling myself, and it feels like I'm fooling myself because I want this, but I can't really have it.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
The
I think I understand what you're saying.
the closest thing I've ever come is like investigating the ancient religions of my ancestors, like the pagan faith before their countries were Christianized.
Right.
And I do feel like a kind of connection to that, but even that is more of a cultural thing than
more just like historic cultural history than it is religious faith.
Yeah, connecting with your ancestors. I can totally dig that.
Yeah, in my head, I've found myself doing stuff like invoking the goddess for whom my dad's home village is named, just out of nowhere. So I don't know, maybe I'm in the middle of my own pagan religious awakening or something, but
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and it could be, and I will say, when it comes to like real world finding faith or anything like that in the real world, it's not always, it's not always it's not a lightning bolt so much as it's a learned experience. Like you were saying, you're trying to do the head gymnastics, but it always feels like we're just doing gymnastics. It may not feel like you actually believe it, but constantly questioning that, to constantly think over it, to keep pushing yourself to call into a podcast, for example, and admit that on the air is understandable. But it's also a step in, like, well, hey, maybe these people have an idea I haven't thought of, kind of a thing. You just have to keep, it's like everything. You just have to keep asking. You have to keep asking questions, and eventually you'll start getting answers. And then you'll have to ask questions about those answers. And when eventually you'll get to a point where you won't be able to talk yourself out of a thing. And if you are able to talk yourself out of it, you just have to keep answering questions. That's just kind of how a lot of those things go when it comes to faith or believing in something that you can't prove. I can prove the existence of lightning and light because we can see it every day. It doesn't mean I want to, I like light. I can't grab it, but I know it exists. It's fate or a higher power is the same way.
I will say, Whoop, you sound like you're in pretty much the same place that I was when I started role-playing my Tauren character. I don't think you were here for this, but I was talking about a Tauren character I role-played and started role-playing his spirituality. And at the time, I had like a falling out with Christianity, and I couldn't find something that worked for me and was empty. And it started out just by like tiny little things, like you said, like calling on the name of the god of your father's village. Like, it might not really mean a whole lot to you now, but like that doesn't mean that it won't grow into something. And like roleplay is like, this is what I was getting at earlier, is like I think roleplay is a perfect platform to do that, and to test out different things and see what maybe starts to work for you or what doesn't work for you.
It's funny. I'm just thinking about it now. I'm only just realizing that there's more of a parallel between me and my main than I realized, in that she's a Nord who worships Juno, which is kind of a niche religious figure among the Nords. And, I'm just...
And you're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
She's an archaeologist, so I figured it made sense.
Yeah, well, and exactly. You never know where roleplay can be one of those things where sometimes there's things that going on in your own head where you're like, you don't even know. It's why a lot of people they do the interactions and the roleplay thing, and I'm not saying you need therapy, but in therapy you need therapy. But, that's why they role play things out, is because sometimes when you take on the character, you're still playing that person, but everything that comes out through there is some part of your personality, your beliefs, your spiritualistic view on the world. Even if you may not realize it, it just spills out through you kind of letting go and talking with other people through, tip typing, that's you never know where things might go for that. Because sometimes I've surprised myself through characters. I know that's a fact. I've done things I'm like, huh, where'd that come from? You know, somewhere inside of me. I just don't know where.
I like having moments like those.
Yeah, they're always fun.
I think you were looking for the word therapeutic.
No, therapy. I meant therapy. You need therapy. I'm teasing. Or am I? Dun, dun,
I think we can all use a little therapy.
Probably. But
yes, that's what the hobby is for.
Especially Kishmas. Whew, that guy, he's so nuts. But no, I appreciate you calling in Whoop. I'm going to call you Whoop because that's what Floyd called you, and that's a lot easier to me to say. Yeah. But I appreciate you calling in, Whoop, and I hope you find what you're looking for. I really do.
Much appreciated.
All right. Well, you have a good night, bud.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. So with that, does anybody have any final thoughts on this? And I'll go ahead and end the show. And at the very end, after I do our little plug, I'm going to play the clip still. So don't worry about that. That's still coming. Does anybody have any final thoughts on the spirituality?
Spirits.
Well said, Kishmas. Intelligent as always.
I want to thank you guys for having me on because I love this show, and I'll come back anytime. But yeah, I mean, I'm young and I have a lot to learn. But if any role players out there are interested in this topic and want to talk about it, I know it's a hard topic to talk about because there is no conversation for it. So like, always feel free to message me or whatever.
Yeah,
and
if you join our Discord, rpmmoradio.com/Discord, he's TheHumanFloyd in there, and that's if you need to find him. He's got a little kind of chibi Argonian as an icon, so if you want to make sure you got the right guy, but you can hit him up in Discord easily. I will say, and he knows this too, he might take you a couple days to get back to you, but he will.
Yep. It might. Anywhere you message me, it might take me a little bit to get back to you, but I swear that I will.
That's right. He sure will. But no, seriously, like you were saying, Floyd, I do appreciate you coming on there. I'm really glad you are actually here to join us, not just because we were down so many people today.
Satan took them.
It just kind of happened that way, and I'm really glad you had this topic to bring up. And yeah, I appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you spending your 2 hours of your night with us. You're a cool guy. You look good, by the way, in a leather jacket.
Agreed.
But no, seriously, I'm glad you were able to join us. I'm glad. I don't know why, but I'm glad you like the show. I don't know. I assume there's something mentally and physically wrong with you, but whatever. So,
yeah.
What? I'm just saying. He's been around for a while, so there's clearly something wrong with him if he's still listening to us. But no, with that, I'm going to go ahead and start the end music here, like eventually when I get to it. Like I said, I appreciate the great Whoopadini calling in. Hope you really do find what you're looking for. You figure it out. That stuff kind of can be hard. Everybody else, Jazz, Kishmas, TheHumanFloyd, special guest, appreciate you guys being here. Hope everybody had a good time listening to this show. I know it was a little
long,
heavy, and long. Yeah, that's what she said, Jazz. It was long.
That noise is so wrong.
Just for you.
Just for you, Jazz. Yeah, and don't worry, by the way, Great Whoopadini, you don't sound nearly as bad as you think you do when you listen to the show again. It sounds just fine. It's just everybody thinks that. So, with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us at twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. If you want to join our Discord server, of course, rpmmoradio.com/Discord. And I do want to say that the thing coming up at the very end is from Pixel Debauchery by Scribbles MMO over at patreonradio.com, which runs there at, it's actually running around 24 minutes ago. It runs every Saturday at 10 Eastern, basically usually right after our show when we don't run long. They actually do reruns of it as well. If you check their schedule at pantheonradio.com, it's actually more of an actual radio station. They do it 24/7. Actually has pretty good music, has a lot of different things on the upcoming MMO Pantheon, which I'm starting to actually start to turn around on the more I look at it and some of the things I've heard. So we'll see. But yeah, you can check Scribbles and his Pixel Debauchery out there. And with that, after I end this music, I'll start that up. And with that, of course, tune in next time as we discuss halflings and how heaven is empty of them and hell runneth over.
Bye.
Next time on RPMMORadio. Good night, everybody. The thoughts and opinions of those on RPMMORadio are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth, but pretty close to it. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit and follow him over at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek, where you can hear all his great rock covers of video game music and his own original creations. Following now is, of course, The Unkept Horse. Good night, everybody.
On a trip away from Thronefast, King Leon's caravan meanders closer to a thick vegetative area near Wild's End. King Leon's guards are on alert because there are several reports in the area of thieving bards, rogues, and rangers in these parts.
Soldiers, guards, garrison caravan, summoners, summon earth pits.
Hold there, caravan. Your days of traveling with thine gold and silver pieces has ended. The Unkept Horse and the Merry Forest Men are here.
Sorry, chaps, did you say you're a bunch of unkept whores looking to marry forest men? That would be the last thing to stir my loins. I like 'em brunette, long-legged, with an ample bosom, and a lack of facial hair. Nothing like you fellas.
No, you are mistaken, fine sir. We are a band of forest men that reside within these woods, the woods of the Wild End. We find rich caravans such as yourself, and we liberate them for the wealth, for the less fortunate. We're performing a great deed for the less privileged.
Well, that makes more sense then. I'm sure that King Leon would not be impressed. But I will see if His Majesty will part with a few moments of his time.
Why on earth have we stopped? I have not ordered anyone to stop. If we've run over another beggar, just kick him into the ditch like the last 5 and let's be off. You there! What in the devil are you doing standing in the middle of the road? Move at once!
I am Throbert the Red, forest dweller of the Unkept Horse and Merry Forest Men, and we are here to liberate you of your coin.
Did he just say he was an unkept whore and wants to service me in the forest? While it's a flattering proposition, I do say I prefer something with far more of an ample bosom and a great deal less facial hair.
No, Your Majesty. I believe he's trying to rob you of your valuables and give it to the poor.
Ah, I see. So, Throbert the Red, what are you going to do with all that gold? Give it to the first poor bastard you come across?
Thou art most correct, Your Majesty. Now, if you would just kindly hand it over, there'll be no need for you to face the wrath of the Unkept Horse.
So you plan to just give it to the first poor bastard you see, then? Once I hand over all my gold and silver, will that not make me the first poor bastard you see, and therefore you will have to give it back?
Well, no, I mean, no, not as such. I intend to distribute the wealth to your poor and hungry subjects.
Such as?
Jacob, the village tanner.
Who is this Jacob? Jacob? You believe Jacob to be poor, do you? Well, that's quite the laugh. This wouldn't be the same Jacob the village tanner who is under my employ and makes leathers for my men. The very leathers you see before you, you twit. You believe Jacob to be poor, do you? Now that is a laugh. He may live in a shack surrounded by squalor, yet his flask is never empty, and his old nags have golden shoes. You're welcome.
I was unaware, Your Majesty. I shall find someone truly deserving. Perhaps Gertrude. Yes, Gertrude the corker. She's just a poor widow. She works her fingers to the bone each and every day.
Nay, surely you could find a more deserving soul than old Gertrude. Sure, she may be a feeble corkscrewer, but screwing cork isn't all she does. She's a feeble corkscrewer, and her jugs are always leaking.
Again, it seems you probably speak the truth, Your Majesty. Oh my.
Throbert the Red tries frantically to retaliate against King Leon's words, but his intelligence is lacking.
You may want to come back at a later date with a far more complete business model, as yours appears to be somewhat incomplete. I strongly suggest you reconsider giving wealth to the poor. They don't know how to handle it properly. If they did, they wouldn't be poor in the first place.
I intend to give the money directly from you to the poor who've been ignored for years on end.
Silence! The only poor people I want to hear about from this point on are people that attend my pores at my own private spa. And one more thing to you, good sir. You had better reconsider your name. In that red outfit, for the love of God, I mean, we could see you coming all the way from back in Vendicia. Do you know how far away that is? You are of no surprise to anybody. You're the only thing in the entire forest of vegetative green in the wild woods that is entirely made of red. Not to mention, between you and me, son, Throbert the Red sounds a little bit like an erect wanker, doesn't it? One where it's been maybe played with a little bit too much. You understand my meaning, son?
Oh, Throbert, you wank.
Following the verbal assault on Throbert the Red, Throbert feels emotionally defeated, feeling small, smaller, and smallest.
Anyhow, the only thing you're really doing isn't stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, but in reality it feels more like you're robbing the rich and filling up the poor. No. Move along. This is not
Throbert. Oh, Throbert, you wank.
Wanker. Erect wanker.
Soldiers! Guards! Summoners! Caravan! Move out! It didn't go as expected for Throbert and the Unkept Horse. Will persistence be had from this merry band of forest men, or has the onslaught of wit won over this battle? An old quote from an old wise man: "At the very moment when people underestimate you is when you can make a breakthrough." Learn what happens on Pixel Debauchery. You can pledge to Pixel Debauchery at patreon.com/Pixel Debauchery.
Find out how to get a Pixel Debauchery shirt, stickers, or jogging jacket.
Oh my God!